The August 18 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Arlington Board of Zoning Appeals, which is also known as the BZA. I am Inta Malice, Chair of the Board. The board is made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In addition to myself, this evening we have Vice Chair Paul Melnick and members Judy Freshman and Lindsay Arthurs. Also present is professional staff, including Cliff Hogan, Assistant to the Zoning Administrator, Blake Bowen, Board of Zoning Appeals Planner, Stephen Rissy, the Zoning Prim Supervisor, and the BZA Secretary, and Patty Petrosini, Assistant to the BZA. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before we start, we will show a brief video that explains how the BZA makes its decisions and how we will conduct our hearing tonight. Zoning Appeals, which is also known as the BZA. For the safety of our board members, county staff, applicants, and participating community members, we are meeting in a virtual format this evening, and all participants are joining the meeting remotely. We are legally authorized to hold this virtual meeting based on the governor's executive orders, legislation adopted by the Virginia General Assembly, and the Arlington County Board's Continuity of Operations Ordinance adopted in March of 2020. Before we call our first case, I will share with you some general information about the Board of Zoning Appeals, and then some ground rules on how we will conduct our virtual meeting. The board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the county board. This board does have the authority to do 3 things. 1, we can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements of structures on 1 and 2 family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow for such modifications. 2, we can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance. And 3, we can decide appeals of decisions of the zoning administrator. When approving use permits, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose conditions that are deemed necessary in the public interest, including limiting the duration of the use permit. In order to approve a use permit, the law requires that the board find that the proposal meets certain conditions and that the use permit will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plans and land use and zoning related policies of the county. To do this, the BZA shall consider 1, whether the modification will promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhood because the structure's overall footprint, size, and placement are similar to the structures on properties surrounding the lot in question. And 2, whether the modification will help preserve natural landforms, historical features, and/or foliage. When granting variances, the burden of proof is on the applicant to prove by preponderance of the evidence that the improvements meet the following criteria. Whether the strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, or that granting the variance would alleviate a hardship due to a physical condition relating to the property, or the improvements thereon at the time of the effective date of the ordinance. Whether the granting of the variance would alleviate a hardship by granting a reasonable modification to a property or improvement thereon requested by or on behalf of the person with disability, and whether the property for which the variance is being requested was acquired in good faith and any hardship was not created by the applicant. The board also considers whether the variance granted will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property, nearby property, in the proximity of the geographic area. That the condition or situation of the property concerned is not so general or occurring nature as to make reasonably practical the adoption of amendment to the ordinance. That granting the variance will not result in a use that is not otherwise permitted on the property or change the zoning classification, and that the relief or remedy obtained through the variance is not available to the special exception process as provided for under the zoning or subdivision ordinance. When deciding appeals of the zoning administrator, the board must use its judgment to determine if the administrator was correct. Now for tonight's meeting procedures. Staff reports for each case on tonight's agenda can be found on the BZA website. Staff has placed a link to the agenda in the chat section of the session. If you have not seen the report for your case, you may wish to review it before your item is called. Staff has also placed a link in the chat for supplemental materials received after the staff reports were prepared. The order of our meeting is as follows. First, cases will be called and staff will give a brief report and provide their recommendation. Following that, board members will ask any questions of staff they may have. Next, applicants or their representatives will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. Then, if there are speakers for the item, we will call them one at a time. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may also ask any. We do not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questions by others. We have deemed the following time limits for applicants and speakers to be sufficient. 20 minutes for applicants of appeal, 5 minutes for applicants permits and variances, 3 minutes for speakers representing organizations, and 2 minutes for those speaking as individuals. After the board has gathered all the information we need and has discussed the case, we will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. Majority is needed to approve the motion. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with the rules. Now here are some specific instructions about how this evening's virtual meeting will run. Tonight's meeting is available to stream from the county website via a Microsoft Teams link. There's also a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. If board members, presenters, or speakers lose internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off any sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For those joining via Teams, please turn off your video feed. Only board members will leave their cameras on. When called upon to speak, please turn your camera on and unmute yourself by clicking the microphone icon that is located on the meeting command bar. The moderator does not have the ability to unmute you. If you are dialing by phone, press star 6. The meeting chat is active for presenters or board members who need technical assistance only. The meeting chat should not be used for discussion, public comment, questions about agenda items, or requests for more. All comments must be shared verbally for the record during public testimony period. For board members, if you wish to be recognized to speak on an item, please seek recognition verbally as usual. You also have the option to use the raised hand function. In either case, once you have been recognized, you may unmute yourself. All voting tonight will take place via roll call. Applicants and public speakers, you will be called upon by county staff at time. Pre-registration for speaking today was requested. We will accommodate any additional speakers only if time permits. Public comment will take place in the time frame stated earlier, same as we would provide at an in-person meeting. During public comment, a speaking timer will be displayed on the screen by staff. You are dialing in on the phone. We will provide an audible warning when 30 seconds are remaining. You will be muted when your time has concluded. Lastly, Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. After your case of interest is heard, you are welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your introductory remarks. Good evening.
Mr. Rissy?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Would you call the first item, please?
Madam Chair, I'm actually going to turn it over to Blake Bowen to read the first case.
Very good.
Hello, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, to our applicants as well, and members of the public. The first case is V-11656-21-UP-1. It is a carryover item, a use permit request by Michael Carr on behalf of Biggs Cannon and Lynn Cannon, the owners, to permit a rear setback of 3.1 feet to the eve of a detached accessory building, a garage, instead of 10 feet as required from the rear lot line, regarding a new one-story detached garage on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on premises known as 2703 Key Boulevard. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packets were assembled and printed, and we also have additional speakers who have signed up to speak on this case.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Could you describe the supplemental material?
Yes, ma'am. We have a set of documents that was provided by the owner, Mr. Cannon, that was submitted, which includes a letter, a map, and I believe some other explanation of his project.
All right. And for anyone that's interested, all of the supplemental material has been posted on the BZA website. And is there a link anywhere to that?
Yes, Madam Chair. In the meeting chat, there is a link to both the supplemental materials as well as the staff reports from the agenda.
Okay, so if anyone wishes to see the supplemental material, they can go to that link and see the additional material that we've received. Any questions for staff? All right. Who is here? Is it Mr. Carr or is it the Cannons that are here tonight? Or is everybody here?
We're all here. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
My name is Lynn Cannon, and I regret that I couldn't be here for June's meeting, but I did review all of the video discussion. I'm a special education teacher, and that first meeting took place during our last week of school. Biggs and I went ahead and wrote down all that we wanted to say tonight to make sure that we didn't miss anything in the discussion. Members of the board, thank you for taking the time to review and discuss our request for a special use permit. To review, we are requesting to move our detached garage approximately 3 to 4 feet from our rear property line. This allowance would only affect the rear property line and does not fall within the setback requirement of our neighbor next to us on Key Boulevard. The placement of the garage and the purpose of this request is to allow for more yard space in our backyard for our family. Detached garages on corner lots within the rear setback limit are the norm around our house. In support of our request, we noted 31 corner lots with within the 2 to 3 blocks of our property that have detached garages within that rear setback limit. As the map provided shows, this represents virtually all of the corner lots with detached garages in close proximity to our property. Following the first meeting, we had the opportunity to discuss our request with our neighbor, Joe Rapash, whose property is adjacent to the rear property line. Joe had initially signed a letter in opposition to the request, but has now removed his opposition. Mr. Rapash signed this letter removing his opposition, and that is included in the supplemental information that we have provided. Given the removal of Joe's opposition and the continued support from all 3 neighbors across the street from our corner lot, the only adjacent property that opposes our request is our neighbor to the left, and the request we are making does not fall within the setback limits of her property line. Since our last meeting in June, we have also taken the time to reach out to and meet with neighbors, regardless of their adjacency to the property, who originally opposed our special use permit request. We have met in person and reached out via email and letter to those we were not able to connect with directly. The Gutierrez family, who lives 3 doors down from us at 2715 Keep Boulevard, has also removed their opposition. And the other neighbors we connected with expressed their concerns about water management on our property, and we have been happy to engage with them about these concerns. Having lived in this neighborhood for over 15 years, we feel strongly that we must all do our part to support the neighborhood in this effort. As such, we've sought to communicate the magnitude of our stormwater management plan. Our plan complies with 100% of county guidelines related to stormwater management, including the use of stormwater beds and dry wells where necessary. We have been working with a civil engineer with extensive experience in this area, and he has determined that our stormwater management plan will result in 30% less water leaving our property than occurred with the previous owners. All stormwater landing on the roof of our home will be channeled through gutters onto the Danville side of our property and will be captured in stormwater management beds. In addition, all stormwater landing on the garage will be captured in its own stormwater management bed, regardless of the location of the garage. Additionally, we will be using 25% less buildable space for our home than we are allowed. Residents of Lion Village who have watched developers build large homes on every allowable square inch of property know that this is a rarity. As longtime residents of Lion Village, we took great pains in the design process to create a home which honors the scale and charm of the original character of this neighborhood. As Ms. DeWitt is the only adjacent property owner to express opposition to our request, we have also engaged with Ms. DeWitt directly, walking our property, outlining our water management plan, which she has identified as her main concern. It is at this point I feel the need to emphasize that the special use permit we are requesting, and therefore the purpose of our meeting tonight, is specifically involving the setback of our garage, which, as I've outlined above, in no way impacts our stormwater management plan. Even so, we've evaluated her request to implement dry wells where necessary, which was already part of our plan, as well as till and add compost to our land to aid in soil decompaction, which is not required by the county. We feel that these additional steps are more than a fair compromise in addition to our 100% county compliant and expert developed plan, and overwhelmingly demonstrate our commitment to water management and neighborly consideration. Again, the purpose of our discussion tonight is to discuss our ability to place our garage closer to our rear property line, which is in line with other corner lots with the detached garages around our home. All of the water falling in our garage will be captured through our stormwater management plan, regardless of the location of the garage. Our neighbor along our rear property is no longer objects to this request, and his home is the only one that will be impacted by the granting of this request. We've met with other neighbors, and we feel that we have provided a water management plan that should alleviate all of the concerns, even though the location of the garage does not impact that plan. It has been and will continue to be a priority to have positive relationships with our neighbors, and we hope that you, the board, will act on the county's review team's recommendation to grant us this special use permit. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cannon. Any questions for the applicant right now? Mr. Bowen, can I see the speaker list, and who do we have?
Yes, Madam Chair, I believe we have one speaker, Jill DeWitt.
All right, is Ms. DeWitt with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, I hear you. I don't see you yet.
Sorry, can you see me now?
No, but sometimes it takes a minute. Or am I
Okay.
the only one that does, if everybody else sees you, I just don't.
I can.
All right,
Can you see me
so
now?
go ahead. I don't see you, but you know, it's a little tricky. I don't always get to see everybody. So go ahead. Welcome.
Sure. Thank you. I've twice proposed compromises to protect the interests and property of neighbors. The canons have not compromised or persuaded the vast majority of the neighbors who opposed the approval to change their mind. Their statement submitted to you simply digs in to defend their request with the vague offer for soil decompaction. On July 16th, I walked the canons and their contractor around the block and pointed out all of the extra stormwater management steps that I and neighbors have taken to address water issues after construction. I asked them to look at Arlington's new stormwater management requirements that go into effect in a few weeks. These were adopted last March because current requirements are not sufficient to protect neighbors. Our block has an underground stream, and complying would protect downhill neighbors, all of whom already suffer from flooding issues. I and other concerned neighbors also asked the Cannons to provide a copy of their plans, which they still have not done. After they did not agree to my first proposal, I offered a second compromise on July 30th. It asked for 4 very reasonable stipulations to protect neighbors. The Cannons didn't respond until 2 days ago. The response consists of vague assurances and avoids specifically agreeing to stipulations. They have purchased one of the largest properties in the neighborhood, and they knew the size when they made their purchase. There is no need for them to bully their way into constructing inside the setback space, unnecessarily taking out trees and ruining neighbors' views. The problem rests with an increase from 44% to 80% of impermeable surfaces along the downhill side of the property. Their priority is clearly building a larger house, a front porch, a side porch, a back deck, a patio, a larger driveway, and a garage at the expense of trees and green space, not to mention relationships with neighbors. They plan to remove every mature tree and bush on the property, with the exception of the existing trees between the sidewalk and curb. Given the Cannons' disinterest in working out a compromise, 9 households on the immediate block continue to oppose the Cannons' request. I ask that you deny their request and preserve the 10 feet of setback space. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Witt. That's it for speakers. Is there anybody else here tonight that wishes to speak on this issue? Okay, so looks like the discussions with the board. Any questions for the applicants? Ms. Cannon, if you're speaking, you're muted, or you were speaking to yourself.
No, yes.
Okay. So you in your supplemental material, and this is directed at the Cannons, you talked about tilling and adding compost to aid in soil decompaction. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. As Ms. DeWitt notes, when we walked the property, she brought that up as a potential option. We discussed it with our builder, Mike, and frankly, he noted that was a pretty good idea. And so, Mike, I don't know if you have any more details. I'll tell you, Mrs. Chairman, we're still evaluating all that stuff with the property. Mike, I don't know if you have more details with what you've been able to find out.
Hello, board. Mike Carr with Carmichael Construction. So the Cannons brought that up and shared the letter from Ms. DeWitt with me. And so to fill you guys in a little bit more with where the permit is right now. So we actually are probably days away from receiving the approval for the site plan with the garage within the setback. But we're obviously coming here to try to move it back into the setback, the 7 feet. And so the goal, though, is to not have to start the permit process over so that the Cannons lose however many months it would take to change the site plan to include the soil tilling and decompaction. So we can do that as a supplemental thing, but we don't want to have it basically amend or hold up the site plan as it's submitted currently. So we don't want to have it, officially put on the plan saying that we're going to basically do the new Arlington County requirements to decompact to the 2 feet. We're happy to do decompaction, throughout the yard space, so that they have better drainage and their grass grows better. But again, we just don't want to have to restart the process of site plan review by completely changing the plan that is just days away from being approved.
So one option that we have is to make such a offer a part of the condition of the approval. Mr. Bowen, that would not require any changes to the plans?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. So that is an option in that case. We simply, if you have no objection, we make that a condition that will happen at some point prior to occupancy. Okay. Any other questions for the applicants?
I think you may be on mute, whoever's speaking.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Mr. Melnick.
Okay, so the stormwater management plan, it looks like from what I'm seeing is that what the applicants are agreeing to are just following what they'd have to abide by anyway. Is that correct? It's they're saying they're going to be in 100% compliance, but is that, so that's correct though? You just, what, you know, the management you're doing is required anyway.
So what we're saying is, the way that the site plan is drawn now, all of the water goes through planter boxes and then goes through a dry well. And so the decompaction would be in addition to how the plan is drawn currently. So it would be well beyond what the county requires, because we'd be doing, you know, both what the plan shows in it, and we would be supplementing that with the decompaction.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
I think one of the issues here to sort out is that, you know, to what extent is the stormwater management plan related to where the garage is placed?
So it's actually not related at all. What happens with what we're proposing, we shift the garage back and the patio reduces in size, so the coverage doesn't change at all. The impervious coverage is exactly the same whether the garage gets moved or not. And so it seems funny to be talking about it when really we're going for the approval to have the garage moved, when the drainage doesn't change at all. There's no impact or no negative impact.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Melnick.
I'd like to hear Ms. DeWitt's response to the statement that, you know, it's not going to make any difference, the setback with the stormwater issue. Is there any response to Ms. DeWitt?
Yes, thank you so much. It absolutely impacts the stormwater because their plan is to have impermeable surface all the way connecting the house to the garage. So if the garage is an extra 7 feet further, it's a larger deck and a larger patio, making an impervious surface that is going from being, it was 44% to then 80% of impervious surface across the whole yard. If there's 10 feet of space, then that's another 10 feet of grass that can be absorbing water, and there are 2 trees in that setback space that don't need to be removed if the garage is placed, you know, without putting it into the setback space.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I would like to understand that point a little more. What is,
I can elaborate.
I think, sorry?
Okay. I can elaborate, man, with that.
No, because, and maybe this is from staff, I need to ask staff this question. Does the amount of permeable surface change based on where the garage is located? Impermeable surface?
Depending on the specific design solution that's being proposed, potentially. I'm not sure in this instance whether it would change.
So what's the uncertainty here? Why is there uncertainty?
We've only seen the one set of plans.
And that is with the garage in which location?
Within the setback, the 3.1 feet or thereabouts. Yes, with the rear setback of 3.1 feet.
And that's as the applicants are requesting?
Yes, as advertised.
Okay. And you don't know what the impermeable surface would be is if they built something else?
No, we have not seen the other plans and have not done any analysis on them, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it's a little hard to compare those. Mr. Carr, go ahead.
So to clarify, so you guys haven't seen the original plan. So the original plan has a large patio between the house and the garage. And so when the garage shifts, that patio will narrow but lengthen. So it does get longer, but it will narrow. So the total square footage would remain the same. And to Jill, Ms. Cannon's point, we're actually well under our impervious area. We're allowed to cover about 20% more square footage than what we're doing currently. The neighbor that's on the opposite corner, which Mr. Witt brought up last time, covered almost every inch of the property. And we, like they've said, are trying to build something that's a little bit more in scale with the historic nature of the other houses in the neighborhood. And so we're well under our coverage limit by about 20%, 25%.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mr. Witt, can I just follow up with you? How do you know what the difference in a permeable surface will be if we don't have another set of plans to look at?
Well, they showed it to me when we met, and also it's connecting the garage to the house. So it's the distance from the front of the front porch. So it's the distance of the front porch, the house, the back porch, the patio, and the garage. If the garage has an extra 7 feet of space, that distance between the garage and the house that is impermeable in both plans is going to be smaller.
But I believe that they have.
Touching my property is going to change by 7 feet of impermeable space.
So what I'm hearing is that they've changed the shape of the patio under this condition so that it would be the same as if they built it within the setback. Right.
So that space is further uphill and further away from my property. And there's also the issue of the 2 trees that are currently in the setback space.
Let's take one issue at a time. Let's just take the impermeable. So do you agree that it's possible that what they're saying is correct, that the amount of permeable surface is not increased?
The total square footage may not be increased, but the distance along my side of our adjoining property, the distance that is impermeable is different. Does that make sense?
We're talking about the total area of impermeable surface.
Right, that's possible. I don't know. I mean, like I said, both I and other neighbors have asked to see plans and are still waiting, still haven't been given anything. So all I could see was what Michael Carr was shuffling through in his hands when we had our meeting.
Ms. DeWitt, have you looked at the staff report?
I have, yes.
And there are plans in there. Is there a question?
That's what I based my 44 to 80% on.
Okay. Because I'm having myself trouble comparing what they're showing to something that's hypothetical.
Yeah, no, me as well. That's why I and other neighbors requested to see plans, and we've spent 2 months waiting and still haven't seen them.
See, but we can't compare what the request is to something that's hypothetical, because there's nothing for us. It doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. If they were to put their garage within the setback, they'd have multiple options of how to organize their property. So it's a little difficult to say that this is going to be worse in terms of surface area than another solution.
Well, this is assuming that they won't put a patio behind their garage, right? I mean, I'm assuming that if the garage is not in the setback space, that then there will be 10 feet behind the garage that will be grass.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Freshman?
I'm looking at, in the staff report, at the existing and proposed plat. Is that what we're talking about? Are we talking about the plan that shows the garage in red and everything else in green?
Yes.
Who answered yes?
That was me, Jill DeWitt. That is what I was talking about.
Well, and Mr. Bowen, do you agree that this is what we are discussing, what's in the staff report? That is the plan.
Yes.
So the green plan is the plan.
Because we've had references to from the applicants and Mr. Carr and Ms. DeWitt on plans and plans and plans, and claims that plans don't exist or haven't been shown. And I don't know where to come down on all of that because I'm not a party to it. But what I know is that there is an existing and proposed plat in the staff report. And that's the only thing that can be acted on. If somebody is talking about something different, then we can move on, because we can't address hypotheticals, and we can't address issues that might have been decided 2 days ago and for which we have no graphics. So that's why I'm asking, is all of this about this one exhibit? And if we talked about adding, for instance, adding a condition about the compaction of the soil or something else, we can add conditions if we so choose, but we have to have a valid plan as part of any action that we take. So that's what I'm trying to get clarification from staff, from applicant, from whomever, if this that I'm looking at is what we're talking about. And the only thing that we can act on.
Yes, the green plan with the red highlighted is what we're requesting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're all clear on that, right? That's the plan, and any other plans that were mentioned or could be drawn up are not part of the proposal.
Yes.
Mr. Melnick, you're muted.
Okay.
You were muted.
Yeah, so if I can be clear that the applicants, just in line with their, them requesting to take positive action on this, are voluntarily agreeing about the tilling and adding compost for the decompaction process. Am I understanding that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
No, it's important to us as well.
Madam Chair, I'm willing to make a motion.
All right. Well, Ms. Freshman, okay.
No, I'm happy to yield the floor to my esteemed colleague.
Okay.
Mr. Melnick, you have the floor.
Okay. So after everything I've heard, I feel like, this is something that the BZA should approve, with the voluntary condition. And so in case V1165621UP1, I move that the Arlington County Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached resolution granting the use permit with the conditions as stated, but also, let's see, with, so with an additional condition that the applicants agree to till and add compost to the yard to aid in the soil decompaction process.
I'll second it.
Just, do we want to add the 1 year clause?
Is that just by default?
I
Thought it was.
I think we still have to put it in our conditions.
Okay, well then I'll add the 1 year for the application of the building permit.
And that's okay with the seconder?
Yes, that makes 5 conditions over all correct?
Right,
That's
that's
correct.
correct.
Yes, I'll second.
And basically I'm mirroring on the supplemental materials, I'm mirroring the language. Let's see. And, on the initial letter to the BZA from the applicants, where they state, let's see, in the sentence it starts, nevertheless, in our effort to compromise. So that's the language that I'm using on that.
Mr. Bowen?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Is that condition sufficient for you all? Do you need a time limit on it or anything? Is that prior to occupancy?
prior to the issuance of the building permit could work potentially, I think.
I don't know the correct timing of when that ought to happen. Mr. Carr?
Could we usually would do it during the end of a project, so ideally the prior to occupancy, we would
Prior
be getting the residential use permit.
Does that work with that for everyone prior to occupancy?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fine with me. So if we could just add that at the end of the condition of soil decompaction process.
Got it. Is
Can I
that,
ask one question?
it's with the board now. We've made a motion, we've seconded it, now we're going to discuss it. Any other discussion? All right, all of our votes are by roll. So Mr. Melnick,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs,
Aye.
chair votes aye. The motion to grant the use permit passes 4-0 with the 5 conditions. So you have your use permit is granted. Now I do want to, Ms. DeWitt, do you have a question or can you ask staff after the meeting?
Yes, no, I just wanted to clarify because the problem I had with their offer was just that it was intentionally vague, that they didn't say what process they would be using and
Okay.
whether they'd be following Arlington County's requirements. Is this saying that they are meeting Arlington's soil decompaction?
We have made a condition and it is what we said it is. We have not said anything further with no, it's as we stated it.
Okay, it's just that, whether you go down 1 inch or 2 feet makes a big difference in terms of how effective this process could be, which is why, Arlington County has the requirements and why that's what I was sending to them and asking them, if they would agree to do it in the way that scientifically is shown to help.
Okay, I think that they've heard your concern and your recommendation, but that won't be part of the requirement, that specific reference. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, board, for your
I
time.
appreciate everyone's willingness to take a pause and talk things over with your neighbors. That's helpful for everybody down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate it.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thanks.
Mr. Bowen, will you call the next item?
Madam Chair, I will actually be switching again with Mr. Rissy. So we'll be doing this
Somebody
a few
call the
times
next
tonight.
item.
The next item is case number V-11647-21-VA-6. It is a variance request by Mohammed Sohail Arzu, the owner, to permit a main building footprint of 2,600 square feet instead of 2,520 square feet as permitted for a one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district without a qualifying front porch, regarding a new front 2-story addition in the R6 zoning district on the premise known as 1809 South Monroe Street. Staff recommends the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance. An alternative resolution and conditions have been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the application as advertised.
Thank you, Mr. Rissy. Any questions for staff?
Yes, I have a question.
Ms. Freshman.
As I just heard you say single family. I looked at the drawings and I drove the site and it looks like 10 bedrooms to me. And so I'm a little concerned. I think going forward, as we discuss the variance and then the use permit, that there be some clarity as to how this property is being used currently and would be used if it were expanded. So I guess it's a rhetorical question. Thank you.
Ms. Arthurs.
I live not terribly far from here. There's also been a sign on a table in the front yard for a couple weeks that tells other people not to walk in the back. So I think the whole back portion of the house is a separate unit is what it looks like. So I don't think in any way, shape, or form this is a single family home. I'm right there with you.
Mr. Rissy, for our purposes, is that relevant?
It can influence your decisions, obviously, but approving the variance for additional footprint would not change the use of the structure to anything that would not be allowed in the zoning district, is probably the best way I could answer that.
Right. And the appropriateness or inappropriateness of the use is separate from that decision.
Correct.
Just to clarify, okay? I too,
There's a follow-up there.
Miss Arthurs.
I recall, and I don't have the report up on my screen, but I recall, I just found it odd that of the lot size that these buildings weren't close to the edge of that, and adding more wouldn't get us closer. I mean, this is a massive building on this corner lot.
It's also,
and I recall in the staff report that they were going to be under, right?
They're under lot coverage, yes, but not under the main building footprint, which is the purpose of this request.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually an oversized lot.
Yes, for the zoning.
With an oversized building.
With a building that is pretty built out. Let me see. So is the applicant with us tonight, Mr. Arzu? Maybe he can shed some light on some of our questions.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening to all the board members.
Good evening. Welcome.
So, okay, so I understand I'm going over my cap size of footprint coverage. However, I think this is a pretty normal around here in my area. I've seen many properties, and I've actually attached a number of properties with, first of all, with the setbacks between anywhere from 5 feet to 20 feet. Well, I don't know, it depends how you look at it. I'm asking for a setback of 20 feet or 22 feet, but I've seen property with setbacks of 5 to 20 feet. Then I have several listings here, which actually Mr. Rissy sent me, where there are people have asked for 50% or more coverage. And I'm only asking. I'm actually within my cap coverage. If I add, including my proposed addition, but there are properties which were approved. I'm referring to the email from Mr. Rissy on June 21st, and there were several properties which were approved with similar or actually asking for more coverage than what I'm asking here, so I think this is and also one other important thing is that Mr. Rissy send me a, let me pull that here. So there's a writing here. It says actually the variances have criteria that say that the situation should be unique and caused by a hardship of the land or improvement placed before the zoning ordinance. I don't know when this land was. I think it was developed in 69 or 75. I'm not sure when the zoning ordinance came into the picture, but I think this was developed before the zoning ordinance. So so the variance is not say that should be and caused by hardship of the land before the zoning ordinance. So my hardship is that This is a very, it's not a like it's not a rectangular or a square box. It's pretty narrow in the back and in the front. It starts the intersection with Walter Reed and Monroe Street. It starts at a higher dimension, but then it narrows down as I move towards my parking area. So that it makes me a hardship here. And of course, it was built before the zoning ordinance came into the picture. But even with some of the other cases I'm looking at here, and I've actually attached many in my application, along with my application on the BZA site, which are many are still in progress. There people have been building. I just actually got one. I walked in my neighborhood a couple of blocks away from my house. It's 1731 17th Street. He has the same situation. It's a pretty big, almost same size as my house. It's not larger. And he had the same issue, and he got approved. And that's like a 3-story big house. It's sitting right in the corner of Walter Reed and Glebe Road, but I think the address is 17th Street. So there are many examples there. So I'm not asking anything unusual or different than what people have been building around here, and that's what I'm asking. And of course, I'm not like adding any bedrooms, anything like that. It's just I'm adding a half the hexagonal kind of design, which gives me added space on the living room and the rec room downstairs. So I've been trying to, I guess the other thing is that I've been trying to beautify this area, because I'm at the corner lot and it's visible several blocks from 4 different directions. So and I changed. I put a really nice architectural kind of fence. Then in the back I've been doing all kind of plantations. So just to make it nicer looking, because it's like a gateway to 4 streets. So that's in addition to what the reasons I gave you. So that's where I stand.
Thank you, Mr. Aruz. I think we need to sort out, there's 2 different situations here. There's a variance request and there's a use permit request. In the variance request, Mr. Rissi did not provide any examples. I believe those examples have to do with the use permit. So we're not talking about the front setback right now or the side setback. We're talking strictly about the main building footprint.
Right.
Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, I have a question for staff, a follow-up question.
Sure.
So I don't know which staff member could answer this, but the applicant is saying, that his property is abnormally shaped and therefore, it's hard to build, and I think he was talking about issues about a use permit on that. And so, just, if the staff has any more comments about the lack of unreasonable restrictions of use or hardship, could the staff elaborate, on why those criteria are not applicable here?
I don't think we have anything in addition to what we've added to the report. I think that the lot is oversized for the zoning district that it's in, which generally allows applicants to build as large of a structure as you're permitted within the zoning district, which the applicant has done through a number of additions to the property. I don't believe that the lot is unusually, there's a hardship of the land that creates the need for additional coverage in this case. Certainly there are, unique properties of the property itself. It has a different layout than other properties around it, but I don't feel that there is a hardship of the land that creates the need for additional coverage. And additionally, the applicant mentioned, for improvements thereon that were there upon the effective date of the zoning ordinance. And the structure itself was built after the adoption of the original zoning ordinance, but there's been a number of additions over time that have increased the size of the structure to where it is now, which is a coverage that does not have a large amount that can be added to it without obtaining a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Mr. Rossi, can I ask you a question?
No, hang on.
Okay.
You had your turn to talk for now, so let us talk for a minute.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant or Mr. Rossi? So I am not seeing a hardship on this site that would justify a variance. And the request, the applicant could certainly shave down his request because, he could build within the square feet that he has available to him if he wished, and he could do that by right. I guess that's a question I have for the applicant, Mr. Arzu. Why not just build a slightly smaller building? And then you don't need permission.
Yeah, I have done calculation, and I think if I do with a smaller building within my leftover or balance of footprint, main building footprint, all I'm going to have is 80 feet. And even for that 80 feet, because of the crooked, kind of, not even, or my lot size, I still be encroaching into, I guess, a few feet encroaching into my setbacks, and that's where the use permit comes in. So if I get the use permit, then I should be okay with the 80 feet. However, 80 feet is like a 10 by 8 addition. It's way less than the more than twice as much less than what I'm asking. The other thing I was just going to add, I have I added a letter, attached a letter, the neighborhood outreach letters. Everybody, almost everybody in my neighborhood supported it, including the president of the civic association here. So nobody has any objection, and it's gonna present a nice outlook of the whole area here.
Mr. Arzu, are you aware that some of your neighbors do object?
There's one neighbor who objected. He actually supported it, and I have attached his signature. The letter I attached, he approved it. He agreed to it. But then that was a few months ago. Then we were just talking outside, and he asked. And then he said, "Let me see all the plans." And I showed him. I even showed him the plan the first time. So he said, "I have more questions." So I told him everything. He somehow thinks that I'm adding bedrooms and I'm gonna rent it out. And his name is Bill. We call him Bill. I don't know what his full name is, but I told him, Bill, this is. I can guarantee you, I can write you a notarized statement. There's nothing I'm adding to, or let alone bedrooms. I'm not. There's no need for me to add any bedrooms or anything. This is just extending my living area and the rec room, because I have grandkids now, so I wanted to add a little bit more space. So,
Mr. Arzu, let me ask. Just you had mentioned the setbacks, and that if we approve the setbacks, you would adjust, you could possibly adjust your footprint, but it's not going to, I don't believe it's going to work that way. Mr. Rissy, he would have to submit new plans. If we denied the variance, would he have to submit new plans for the setbacks? I think I would want to see new plans, but.
It depends on whether you altered your standard condition that they build according to the plans.
Yeah.
attached.
Yeah, and that's our standard, really our standard condition. So Mr., if we deny the variance, you can come back with a use permit to build a smaller building that may encroach, and it's possible that we would consider that. But I don't see that that I would support approving the use permit without seeing new plans.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Melnick?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you on this, because I'm not seeing that the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property as it is. I'm not seeing a hardship, and it's questionable, about the additions, that those contributed to the condition, needing this variance, and also I think this is general and recurring. So there's numerous criteria that I'm not seeing. So, I agree that I think I can't approve the variance. And so I think that's a good resolution though. Amendment of the plans, and if need be, come back for a use permit.
Ms. Freshman?
I agree with your conclusion and Mr. Melnick's. I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead, Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance V-11647-21-VA-6.
I'll second.
A motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Melnick to deny the variance. Is there any other discussion?
Can I ask you another question?
No. Discussion's with us now. You'll get a chance because we'll hear the use permit, so you'll have a chance to ask another question. I'm going to call the roll on the variance request. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So the motion to deny the variance passes 4-0. There's an associated use permit. Will you call that, Mr. Rissy?
Yes. The next case is case number V-11647-21-EP-1. It is a use permit request by Mohammed Sohail Arzu, the owner, to permit a street setback of 20 feet to the wall from the South Monroe Street and to permit a street setback of 24.3 feet to the wall from the South Walter Reed Drive regarding new front two-story addition in the R6 zoning district on the premise known as 1809 South Monroe Street. Staff recommends the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. An alternative resolution has been provided should the BZA see fit to deny the associated variance in case V-11647-21-VA-6, without which the proposed addition cannot be built.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Rissy. Any questions for staff? Ms. Freshman?
Yeah, I was just going to, we've had this before where a variance is recommended for denial and a use permit is recommended for approval, and I think it's confusing. However, in the recommendation, it does say that this couldn't be built without the variance. So I think, I think if there is an interest in hearing from the applicant, that's fine, but otherwise I would recommend that we deny the use permit.
Okay. Mr. Arzu, would you like to speak?
Yes. So what I was going to say is that because I have a leftover balance, kind of 80 square feet to meet my main building footprint. So if I use that in one corner of the proposed addition, I'll probably be encroaching into the setbacks by a couple of feet. So right now, I think I'm asking for setbacks of 20 feet. So instead of that, it probably be maybe 22 feet. Because the other corner, I'm okay. On the Walter Reed side, also there's, I think it's not 25, it's 24.3, but that's always been there. And the wall of the proposed addition I'm going to build is along the current structure of the main house. So it's not like I'm encroaching more. It's just going to be along the wall. So, but on the Monroe Street side, I'm going to go like 2 or 3 more feet in my setbacks. So if I do 80 feet, 80 square feet, but what I was asking you before is that, is it possible I can get maybe, because what I've been asking, like 151 square feet, that's my proposed addition. If I don't get 151, can you give me some more so it worth the expense to build a proposed addition?
Mr. Arzu, you will have to bring us back plans and show us what your next proposal looks like. We can't rule on a hypothetical situation.
Okay.
So you'll have to decide what your new plan is. You did not get additional coverage or building footprint. So you would have to stay within your building footprint unless you want to make another variance request and see if that one changes. But I think based on the view that there's no hardship here, another variance probably wouldn't be successful. But you can come back with new plans and ask for another use permit. Mr. Rissy, I have a question on the Walter Reed setback. Are you muted or am I? I'm just looking at the plans. I guess I would need to understand where, does the use permit have plans in it? Or is it just in the, yeah, there it is.
I believe they're in
20, so was this property out of compliance already as far as setbacks go?
Madam Chair, this is the 6th variance that's been requested on this property, hence BA 6.
Oh,
So there's a legacy of obtaining approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals for.
okay. So all of these, I see, yeah, I see all these variances.
All these variances are for setbacks, so you can see from there that it is a problematic property because with hardships, but none of these corners or front or rear or sides are proper or regular shapes, and that's why I had to get the variance when I was building the addition in the back. And same thing is true this time. And that's what I'm saying is I'm in a hardship situation, so I don't know why. What is the criteria of hardship?
Okay, so Mr. Arzu, there are different criteria for variances versus use permits. The variance requires that you have a hardship. The use permit requires that is about compatibility. So there's two different standards here. One is for a variance. So you would have a different conversation on the use permit than you would on the variance.
Okay. So with the variant, with the setbacks, I've attached many examples.
But so yes, you have, but you don't have plans for what you plan to build now.
I did attach all the plans.
But you can't build those now because we denied your variance.
Okay, but if I do get the use permit, it's going to be the same structure but just smaller.
We need to see the plans. That's where we're at. That we need to, before we can approve something, we do need to see the plans.
Okay. Okay, so, yeah, I'll draw another set of plans.
All right. Mr. Rissy,
Yes, ma'am.
that in this case, do we need to deny this use permit, or could we defer it for a new set of plans?
Either one of those is available to you.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Melnick.
I think it'd be better to just deny it because it seems to me, and Mr. Rissy, correct me if I'm wrong, but if the plans change, you know, don't the changed plans need to be part of a new application, or can he keep this application and switch out the plans and not have to refile? I mean,
Could do that. We've had applicants make changes to their materials between cases before. We'd update the advertisement as necessary. It's possible. It's
okay.
really up to you guys whether you feel it's more appropriate just to deny this and have them start with a clean slate, or to carry over and amend this to whatever it gets changed to.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Melnick.
I think it definitely depends on, the stated intentions of the applicant. Because you would ask, what do we defer it to? Like, how long will he need to change the plans? And is he willing to change the plans?
Mr. Arzu, do you hear that question?
Yeah, I'm going to change the plans, make them smaller. So then I'll keep it within the I guess the 80 square feet I have. Stay in my building, main building footprint cap.
So, I do have one. We would have to see the plans, and there's the fact that we would defer would not guarantee that we would accept your new plans either. Ms. Freshman?
Yes, I think it's more appropriate, given that we did not approve the variance, that we deny the use permit. And because he may have a change of heart, we could pick some arbitrary date. And if we did, I would say at least 3 months in order for whatever has to happen. And I just think that given all the givens, I would rather encourage him to begin anew and start with, if he decides to proceed, than to come up with new plans and start over.
All right. I'm willing to entertain any motion that you want to make.
Can I ask you if what you're suggesting, if that's what what you're suggesting, what you want me to do to start a new thing, that mean that I'm filing a new application and paying another several $100s again?
Yes.
Yeah, it would be a new application.
So, can you? I'm saying, I'm going to make a new plans, smaller plans, and submit those. So, can we do that? Can we go that route? Because I don't think that's. If that's what I'm saying, I'm going to do that, and I think that's what you wanted me to do it in the first place. So, I don't know why.
I think you're in a situation that you proposed a plan that cannot be built without a variance. And I think that's where we're coming down, that in order to build the plan that you proposed, you needed the variance. And since you didn't get the variance, this use permit is also not going to work.
But the new the modified plans that I'm going to do, that would not need a variance. It would only be needing a setbacks, which is a use permit. So I mean, if you can defer, that's fine. You want to cancel the variance, deny the variance, but the use permit, if you can defer it, because I'm going to make sure that, my new plan would be only for a use permit for the setbacks.
All
Madam
right,
Chair,
thank you. We've noted your comment. Let's see what where the board's thinking is right now.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Melnick.
So I have a question of Mr. Rissy. Okay, so if we did do a deferral, or I'm sorry, if we did a denial, is the only difference between that and a deferral the payment of, the filing fee? And that's about it? Because if we deferred, he'd have to pretty much submit a whole new package with all new plans. I assume we'd have like an amended staff report. And so it just seems like on a deferral, versus a denial, the only difference is that the repayment of the filing fee. Is that right?
I wouldn't say that's the only difference, but that certainly is a major difference for the applicant. Denial would need a full new application, so everything needs to get submitted again, as opposed to a deferral where they'd only have to change the drawings that are getting amended. The denial would be to a new case number. The deferral would keep the same case number going forward. So there are some smaller additional differences, but certainly the fee is probably the largest impact for the applicant. And yes, a new staff report is necessary in either case.
I just want Mr. Arzu to understand that even by deferring this application, if that's what we were to do, there's no guarantee that we would approve it. We would have to consider it fresh and hear from the neighbors just like we did before.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Melnick.
I'd like to ask the applicant, what is a reasonable time to defer this if we were to defer it? When can he reasonably put together new plans and submit them to the county?
I would go with the October BZA hearing.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, folks. Ms. Freshman.
We have a couple of additional hearings coming up that aren't related to this topic. Can Mr. Rissy give us some idea of the volume that we can look forward to?
I really couldn't tell you out to October what we're looking like at this point. Obviously, we've got a couple of appeals coming up. One of those is likely to be heard in October, if not both. But beyond that, I don't know what the rest of the agenda may look.
I would therefore suggest November. It's the devil we know.
Let's make a motion and test it, and because we do need to move on.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Oh.
Mr. Melnick?
So is the applicant willing to go with a deferral till November?
Yes, that is fine.
Okay. Just checking. Thanks. Okay, I'll make a motion.
All right, let's try it.
Okay. All right, so in case Z1164721 UP1, I move that this matter be deferred to the November 2021 BZA meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Ms. Freshman to defer the use permit to the November BZA hearing. Is there any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to defer to November carries 4-0. We will see you in November, Mr. Arzu.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will you call the next item, Mr. Rissy?
Madam Chair, I'm actually going to turn the next item over to Bowen.
Okay.
Hello again, everyone.
Maybe we could get chairs on rollers or something so that you guys could just,
Yeah, they're actually they are.
well, okay.
We can make it a little smoother next time. The next case is V11672-21-VA-1. It is a carryover item, a variance request by Kamara Ola, the owner, to permit a main building footprint percent coverage of 34.04% instead of 33% allowed for a one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district with a qualifying front porch regarding a front and rear addition to an existing building on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2621 North Lexington Street. Staff recommends that the board defer this application to the September 2021 BZA hearing at the request of the applicant. Please notice that we also have additional speakers who have signed up for this case.
Well, interesting. So is the applicant here with us tonight?
I do not believe so, Madam Chair.
All right. And who's our speakers?
Give me just one moment. I believe it's Karen Lindquist who has signed up to speak. Yes.
All right. Ms. Lindquist, we're going to be deferring this matter to the September BZA hearing, but we would be glad to hear your comments this evening.
Yes, I had a couple of questions. At the last meeting in July, there was a request from the board to conduct a traffic study of the intersection. And I wondered what the status of that was and when that would be conducted. In addition to which, there was also a request of the board that all of the neighbors were re-noticed with proper copies of the proposed additions, and that has not happened yet. And so I wondered if that information had been conveyed to the property owner.
I'm pretty certain that the property owner is aware that neighbor comments are being sought. So on that point, I'm quite certain. I'm looking at the variance request and it does have neighbor comments attached to it. Have you seen the report?
Yes, but when we spoke in July, I believe I explained to everyone that when the neighbor gave the original request for opposition or agreement to the proposed additions, that the attached drawings were not the ones that he actually submitted to the county. The ones he submitted to the county were more extensive than the ones he gave the neighbors. And I subsequently discovered that one of the neighbors who said they did not oppose the addition never received a copy of the proposed architectural drawings. And so after my other neighbor and I both spoke at the July meeting, there was a request that the neighbors actually resubmit accurate depictions of the architectural drawings to the neighbors so they could see how extensive everything was. And to my knowledge, that has not happened.
All right. Okay, thank you for that information. So, well, you can, this is being, the request is to defer to the September meeting. So you will have an opportunity to check in again in September. Ms. Freshman?
Given what Ms. Lindquist said, there seems to be some difficulty with neighborhood outreach. I'm a little uncomfortable with September, just because I guess we had 1 month when nothing much has happened.
Yeah, the applicant is not here. So I don't know what their availability is past September, but it's still our prerogative to defer to whatever date that we decide.
Well, and Madam Chair, according to both the variance and the use permit, oh, I see. Never mind. It was the staff who requested the deferral to this date. We don't have, if the applicant isn't here, there's no way that we can discuss how the outreach is going or whether there are better plans that are being submitted. We have one neighbor who's here to tell us her point of view.
Mhm.
I just feel as if, you know, if the applicant was here, that would be a different story.
Yeah. Mr. Bowen, do you have any insight into any activity on the part of the applicant and in this regard?
Madam Chair, we do have the confirmation from the applicant that he'll be available in September, hence the recommendation to defer to September. We have not heard anything further from the applicant beyond September. I do also know that the applicant just had a newborn baby, so that might be interfering with the ability to do neighborhood outreach.
Well,
That's that's an explanation, but not not an excuse.
sure. It's also
Another month could help in that regard.
Absolutely.
it certainly could, but how would we communicate to the applicant what our, how would we remind the applicant of what our expectations were from when we heard this in July? Would that be something that Mr. Bowen could convey?
Yeah, we've reached out to Mr. Ola on a number of occasions since the July meeting, and we'd be happy to relay those considerations again, that there's an expectation to perhaps redo the neighborhood outreach.
And there was a mention, Ms. Lindquist also mentions information about traffic on that corner.
We did a traffic analysis of the visual clearance triangle, which is a part of the updated use permit report for this request, so the next case to be called.
Okay. All right. So, we can defer to September, and if they don't have the information, we defer it again, or we defer further out now. What's your pleasure, ladies and gentlemen?
I just feel that because it's August and school is going to be starting and, new baby aside, without the applicant being here on the assumption that, they couldn't be here to be heard, I'd rather give it more time in hopes that the request of the community is sought and is taken seriously for this submission. And I think that it's, to some extent, it provides an extra burden for the BZA and staff to have continual deferrals.
Sure.
I'd prefer to have enough time for everybody to get their act together so that we can resolve it however we end up resolving it, and with one more set of hearings.
All right. Do you want to make a motion?
Sure. In the case of V-11672-21-VA1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer the application to the October 2021 BZA hearing.
A second.
Motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Arthurs to defer this case to the October BZA hearing. Any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're deferring until October. So Mr. Bowen, will you let the applicant know? And you can direct them to the tape of the discussion. once it's posted so that they can hear what Ms. Lindquist's comments as well as ours.
Yes, Madam Chair, I can do that.
All right, will you call the next item?
Yes, I can. The next item is the related use permit request for the same property. It is case V-11672-21-UP-1, a carryover item as well. A use permit request by Kamara Ola, the owner, to permit a setback of 19.2 feet to the porch, 18.2 feet to the porch eave, instead of 21 feet to the porch, 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required from North Lexington Street, a setback of 10.4 feet to the wall, 9.3 feet to the eave, and 12.8 feet to the landing instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eave and landing as required from 27th Street North, to permit a rear setback of 8.9 feet to the porch instead of 10 feet as required, and to permit an aggregate side yard of 15.9 feet instead of 18 feet as required in the R6 zoning district regarding a new front porch and rear porch and side addition to an existing building on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on premises known as 2621 North Lexington Street. Staff recommends that the board defer this application to the September 21 BZA hearing, and please note that we have additional speakers who have signed up to speak on this item. Once again, Mrs. Lindquist.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Ms. Lindquist, are you still here? Okay, I don't hear her. So let's move forward. Ms. Freshman?
Case V-11672-21-UP1, I move that the BZA defer the application to the October 2021 BZA hearing.
Is there a second? Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Ms. Arthurs? Motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Arthurs to defer to the October BZA hearing. Any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. This use permit, as well as the variance, is deferred to October. Next item, Mr. Bowen, is that you? No, it's Mr.
This time
Rissy.
I'm once again switching off to Mr. Rissy, so I'll be
I
back in a
think
bit.
we should have some music, some little music, transition music.
Musical chairs music?
You could start it, and then you wouldn't even have to announce it. We would just know when we heard the music that there was going to be a switchy.
All right. This is case number V-11680-21-UP-2. It is a use permit request by Kathleen McCowan, the owner, to permit after-the-fact approval for a left side setback of 10.7 feet to the wall from the property line instead of 11 feet to the wall as required, and to permit a rear setback of 24.8 feet to the wall instead of 25 feet to the wall as required, regarding after-the-fact approval for a recently constructed rear addition on a semi-detached dwelling in the R27 zoning district on the premise known as 2012 21st Street North. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. And I'd like you to please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed, and we have an additional speaker who has signed up to speak on this item.
All right. Any questions for staff?
This is building error, right? Basically.
Correct.
Appears to be.
Thank
Is Ms. McCowan here?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here, but I also have my lawyer, Mark, here.
I'm here. Ms. McCowan, betcha you're happy to be here.
Hoping not to be within the use permit.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. We did our best.
All right, tell us about your application.
Keith, are you going to talk?
I'm happy to.
Who's speaking now?
This is Keith Martin. I'm the attorney for the applicant.
All right, I hear you. I don't see you yet. Are you?
Well, I'm trying.
Okay. That's all right. We don't have to see you. You can proceed.
Well, you're lucky not to see me.
Now I want to see you.
So this application, and first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Rissy for doing such an exceptional job of the staff report and the recommendation for approval. These people did everything the right way. They hired an architect. The architect submitted plans to Arlington County. Arlington County approved a building permit, which is in your package. And their contractor proceeded to build the addition according to the building permit. Unfortunately, somewhere along the way, the addition went 4 inches one way, 5 inches the other way. You know, and as the staff report says, there are numerous in the neighborhood of these instances. This was done without any, you know, malice, you know, so they tried to do all the right things. And so here we are, and we have all the neighbors, the abutting neighbors supporting it. There's one neighbor that's next door that I think is online, Mr. Giblin. I contacted him months ago. He never responded. He does not live there mostly year round. He rents out the house for Airbnb. So I really don't understand what his concerns are, but my clients have done all the right things, all the way through the process, and they've spent probably over $2,000 to get here, you know, for something that they thought they were doing the right way. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Certainly. One question I had, there was supplemental material on this case, and one email was from Kelly Hardy. Do you know where she lives?
Ma'am, she's the building that's right behind me. So those pictures I took today, I went into her backyard. She let me take them from her backyard. So that's her property that looks directly.
Okay, you had already secured, she had already signed a petition or had given you previously. Okay, so it's only your next door neighbor that you weren't able to get a response from?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And is there a speaker?
Yes, Madam Chair.
So John Giblin, are you with us this evening?
Yes, hi, good evening.
Hi.
Yeah, I did receive a letter from Kathleen's lawyer, and he said if I had any questions, not to speak to her, but to speak to him. I didn't have any questions. Also, the house is not rented on Airbnb, and I don't think it's appropriate for their attorney to decide what I want done and how other properties affect my property.
Okay, Mr. Giblin, where do you live? I'm sorry.
I live at 2014 North 21st Street. You all sound like you're really good friends. I'm sorry to ruin this party. If you look at the pictures there.
Wait a minute, wait, sorry, slow down. You live at, we're checking.
I live in the adjoining house. My house is adjoined to
2014, okay.
2014 North 21st Street.
All right.
So I don't like being characterized as someone not responding. I was specifically told if I had any questions to direct them towards her attorney, and I had no questions, and I never approached his client. So I feel like there was a lot of characterizations made that were not inclusive of what's going on with the project just now. So
I'm sorry.
Do you want me to go through my list of issues, or do you want me? How should I begin?
The floor is yours.
Okay, I have some discrepancy on what the actual amount of overage is. When I look at the letters of support, they range asking for support for 2.5 inches on some, and then some of the other ones is 3.4. So the people who did sign these documents or supported this are not consistent. And those are easy to read on this. I just noticed those today when I was skimming the package. So in the first off, the job was very poorly run. They damaged my property. I had to go directly to the contractors. Nobody wore face masks. These are easily things that could have been taken care of. But I worked with them as best they could. I gave them access to my property without even being asked. I just woke up and they'd taken my fence down. As you can see, that when you have a total of 11 inches over, when you multiply that out towards 22 feet, you have an overage of 264 square feet. So that is very obvious. So it's just not like a nothing thing. And so when I go out in my backyard, as this picture here shows, the whole thing towers over. So part of this was legally made and part of it wasn't. But, I just wanted to, have some other questions that if I decide to build on to my house and match that, do I need to go through the whole process and pay all the fees to match up to their length? And the second issue is that would also be on the other side, and would that person be willing not to oppose me? The other questions I have are, let's see, yeah, about the conveying, would the use permit convey over to mine? And also, would this set a precedent for all the houses on this block are the same? Somebody needs to mute. Can everybody check their mute? I'm getting a lot of feedback here. Is everybody going to be the same? These houses are staggered. They're all the same. They're very dense, and they're already not in compliance. And do you have any questions for me?
You're muted, Vinta.
I'm not muted.
The chair is muted.
Could you sum up your objection to this?
Well, I just basically had questions. Basically my questions were, would a use permit that would mirror theirs convey over into mine? So I wouldn't have to go through all this hassle, or if I do sell the property to the next people moving in, I will have to disclose to them that, that if you want to match up to that, you're going to have to go through a lot of rigmarole.
So I don't want to, Mr. Rissy could correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody has to file an application.
But I would have to apply one for a use permit when, because of this situation.
That's the answer, is that if you wanted to build something that was in the setback, you would have to file an application.
Okay, so that's one of the issues that this thing has caused me. And then the overage, of that amount of space and that neighbor support is varying if you look at the letters and what they're asking for support, they're not all the same amounts.
All right. So
do you want to pull those up and look at them? I mean, I can show them to you. I'll point them out.
No, we have them in front of us.
Okay, because it's real clear. I mean, it says, do you approve 3.6 inches and 4.8 inches And do you approve some other numbers? None of them give the total amount that's on the application or on the use permit.
So again, summarizing your objection to this application.
I guess that, you know, I'm not crazy at being over 242 feet over the size of the permit. And I think this is something that's going to very easily be avoided. And if their contractor's the one who made the mistake, why isn't their contractor fixing it?
Mr. Giblin, what do you want to happen here? Do you want them to take it down?
That's not my call.
Well, if you have an objection to something that's already built, your objection would be that
I'm sorry, I can't see who I'm
removed.
speaking to. Who am I speaking to?
Ms. Lindsay Arthurs, I'm a board member.
Do you guys all want to just go ahead and do it? That's fine. I mean,
Ms.
I
Arthurs asked you a question. What would your solution be? What do you propose?
I'm not a genius. I can't make magic happen. I mean, you know, I imagine you've had these situations before. How have you fixed this before? Or is it you can just build anything you want off the permit, and then once it's built, you can get away with it? Is that what you're telling me? It's not my problem. I didn't create this situation.
But what do you want
and I'm
to
getting feeling the board, and I feel very hostile. I feel like you guys are not being objective. I feel like you know, that already, you know, I feel like I'm crashing a party.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Mr. Melnick.
Okay, if I could address this. Okay, just so you know, because we do get cases where there's been a mistake. You know, some larger than others. You know, here we're dealing with a relatively small amount. And I understand what you're saying about the square footage, but the way I analyze these are, I look at it as if somebody is just coming up to us to begin with a plan, you know, and the plan here is as it's built. Then you analyze it as far as compatibility, and that's the way we analyze these things. So I don't consider, you know, the circumstance. I mean, in some cases we do, and if we believe it's a mistake, well, it's, you know, just something that happened. But if it fits in with compatibility, then generally it's something that can be approved, and that's what the board has to decide.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry.
But that's the analysis. Is just, you know, you look at it, you look at the plans, you know, whether or not a mistake was made, and just to say, is this compatible with the neighborhood? So that's the analysis we're looking at.
Okay, I agree. And one of the things I did look at some of the other situations where you're saying it is compatible. There is nothing in the entire neighborhood that resembles this in any way. I looked at the drawings. I did this street search on the things, and they're not like that. So this is not. It's not compatible. It's completely starting a whole new precedent for the neighborhood.
Were you able to look at the comparisons in the staff report?
Yes. Not one of them. I put one of them up there against that's valid. I'd love to see it.
It says the adjacent property.
And
2014.
then, yeah, that's a.
Okay. I think we understand your objection.
Well, I'm not doing this to have them have to tear down this. I don't like being put in this position. You know, this was not my idea. Again, as I said, my backyard and the comfort of my backyard, it's been completely decreased by at least 30 or 40% by this huge thing that's towering over my backyard. And from my house, I can see it's sticking out an extra 6 inches. And so that's something I'm aware of, and that cuts off about 20% of my view out that window. I'm not a petty person. I would not bring this up if it were a simple case of something that was just 1 or 2 inches off. And I worked enough in construction and design to know that 5 inches and 6 inches do not go unnoticed during the building process. That's something that comes up on a cocktail napkin. If it's
Well,
A half a foot, I've even on CVS graph paper, a half a foot shows up.
it does happen. We've seen it happen. In cases that we've seen before where there's just errors. So
In two directions, there's an error.
So I guess at this point, the discussion is with the board.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't want to go on the record here saying that I want to do anything. I just wanted to point these issues out, and I'll just sum up. And I appreciate you giving me the time here. That the neighbor support and the request for approval are not consistent, and they call out different numbers than what's on the use permit request. And so that's dealing with something there. If you come up to someone and you say, I want you to approve 2.3 inches as opposed to 6 inches, there's a big difference there. Of course they're going to. If somebody came up to me and if it really were 2.3 inches, I would be right here saying, go for it. I don't care, but it's not. And so that, and then that's,
Mr. Giblin, let me ask the applicant about that very briefly. Are you aware with what?
Very aware. I mean,
then why didn't you correct it on your packet?
Mr. Giblin, the applicant has the floor now.
Okay.
They were thinking that everything was going per the building permit.
No, the question has to do with the, I think the question has to do with the neighborhood outreach and what was conveyed to the neighbors.
All I can say is, I conveyed that it was 4 inches and 5 inches. And so, we're not quibbling about inches here.
4 inches.
So it's no big deal for you guys.
Okay. All right. I think we've got the picture now. I'd like to have the discussion with the board.
Okay.
Ms. Arthurs, do you have your hand up? You're muted.
I don't really have a discussion. I'm prepared to make a motion if you guys are.
Any further discussion before we go for a motion? All right, go ahead, Ms. Arthurs.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution approving use permit V-11680-21-UP-2, subject to the conditions listed and the 1-year time limit. No, we don't need that here because it's already done.
Right. All right. Ms. Arthurs has made a motion to approve the use permit.
I'll second.
Ms. Freshman has seconded it. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The use permit is granted on a vote of 4-0. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Rissy, next item.
Next item is case number V-11681-21-VA-2. It is a variance request by Bryson Bort, the owner, to permit a maximum lot coverage of 52% instead of 45% as permitted for a one-family dwelling with a rear detached garage in the RA818 zoning district, and permit a right side setback of 1 foot to the wall, 6 inches to the eave instead of 8 feet to the wall, 6 feet to the eave as required, a rear setback of 5 feet to the wall instead of 25 feet required, and a setback of 10 feet to the deck instead of 21 feet as required, regarding a new accessory building detached garage with exterior deck in the RA818 zoning district on the premise known as 2001 6th Street South. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached resolution approving the variance with conditions.
Any questions for staff? Ms. Freshman?
It's not really a question, it's just a general comment. I remember this application when it was a little nothing burger house, and I drive by it almost every day. I think they did a splendid job. So I intend to support the application.
You drive by this house every day?
Well, I spend a lot of time going to and from on Washington Boulevard. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's easily visible. No,
Okay.
it's not, it isn't that easy to get to in your vehicle, but.
No, that's what I was wondering. It's a dead end street. I
No.
just wondered how much you, up and down on the dead end street you were doing
No,
every day.
it's Washington Boulevard, which created the part of the difficulty with the lot.
Right. Mr. Rissy, is that your primary rationale, is that the lot is been truncated?
That's certainly part of it. I think a lot of it is that the lot was created before the adoption of the zoning ordinance as an undersized lot. It's never been able to be a conforming lot, and if it were built as a conforming lot, the coverage that they're requesting would actually be acceptable for a lot of that size.
Right.
We don't see a lot of RA 18 cases here. And so obviously there's some different rules here. And, and one, is there a minimum lot size in RA 18 for a single family house?
Yes.
There is, okay. But it does not allow use permits for, so everything has to be done by variance.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, is the applicant with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right. Do you have a picture we should be looking for, or are you on the phone?
No, I'm on phone. I'm in another country actually, so glad to finally make it in.
Well,
I hope it's not Afghanistan.
I do a lot of work over there too. But first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the compliment. The house build up that I did a few years ago was actually a community salvage project from Baltimore, which is where you get that kind of brick. And just trying to build a garage with a lot that is difficult to work with.
All right. Any questions for the applicant? Is that? All right. So it looks like we understand your application. You have, I wondered, you have a next door neighbor?
I have a next door neighbor who is a Coast Guard lieutenant, and then the three neighbors across the street all are the same family.
Okay. So your next door neighbor didn't specifically comment on your project?
I got the request for a written form just about a week and a half ago and was able to get the three neighbors across the street. I had talked to Christine several months ago when I told her about what I was doing, but she moved, so I haven't been able to get a written letter from her.
Okay. All right.
But she gave a verbal approval.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the applicant?
Motion?
Ms. Freshman?
I move Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution approving variance V-11681-21-BA-2, subject to the conditions listed. Do we need to add the 1 year? Oh, it's on there. Skippy.
Oh, it is.
All right.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right. Motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Arthurs to approve the variance with conditions. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Your variance is granted on a motion of 4-0.
Thank you.
All right. Good luck with your project. Mr. Rissy, you're up for the next one.
Correct. Next item is case number V-11682-21-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Caesar and Mercadita Pineda. Owners submit a rear setback of 10 feet to an above ground pool instead of 25 feet as required regarding an accessory structure, an above ground pool in the R10 zoning district on the premise known as 6249 Williamsburg Boulevard. Staff recommends the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. And I'd like you to please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed.
Could you describe the material that came in?
I believe we have a number of online comments of support from surrounding neighbors.
All right, Mr. Rissy, I know this is administrative, but it would be really helpful on the submission form if there was a space for addresses, because we're not getting any addresses. So it's hard to evaluate the comments. We're gonna have to figure out where these folks all live. But that's administrative. Any questions for staff? I have, Mr. Rissy, I have a question. Do you have a chronology of the permit process that took place before this case came to us? According to the staff report, that the applicants had received permission from Arlington County to build this?
I'm not sure of the chronology of the permit that you're looking for.
But you're aware that they have, I'm going by what's in the applicant's justification, that they received permission to build this from the county?
I think this would be a better question for the applicant. I'll look and do my research if you would like to hear them.
Yeah, it would be really helpful because that is one of the questions I had. The next question I have is, this is a slightly undersized lot. Did that enter into the analysis in any way?
No, our standard analysis for a use permit is irregardless of the size of the lot, looking for compatible structures with a footprint and placement similar to the structure in question.
And if this had been an in-ground pool, would it have counted against coverage?
So, yes, an in-ground pool does count towards coverage, but it would not need the use permit because in-ground pools don't need to meet the same setback requirements that an above-ground pool do. They flip their coverage and placement requirements, essentially.
So if they were putting in an in-ground pool, they wouldn't have to come to us?
Not for a use permit.
Not for a use permit?
Correct.
Not for, unless they exceeded their coverage? Lot coverage, okay.
Correct.
All right. Ms. Freshman?
When the pictures flashed up here, it looked like there was a pool in the backyard. Is this an after the fact issue or a replacement or what? There, like that. That looks like a pool to me. Is that a pool?
I believe that's a pool. I believe that's an above ground pool.
Don't we usually have a reference that an after the fact, if it's an after the fact?
Yes.
Were you
we were aware it was after the fact when we were analyzing the application materials.
Okay, well, we just had the case before us was an after the fact and that was incredibly obvious. Okay, thanks.
All right. There's a person L with a hand up. Is that, do we know who the L is?
Oh, we're the applicant.
The applicant.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
We've got-
We will get to you. Why are you an L?
I don't know.
All right, if there's no more questions for staff, I will go to the applicant. Maybe it's L for Liz?
Probably.
Yeah.
All right. Would you like to talk to your application?
Yeah, so thank you. My name's Liz. This is my husband, Francis, and his mom, Mercedita, is on the contract, which is why her name was there. But I can speak to why there's a pool. So we applied for the permit in early spring and right away received an email saying it was for express processing. And then we heard that was on March 24th. And then right after that, we got an email saying it had been approved. So that's when we got everything in motion. Then on April 9th, we received an email saying a resubmission is required. And so I worked with Stephen Rissy and Janine Wade, and everybody was super, super helpful. We've never been through the permitting process before. And I think Stephen and Janine can attest to there were multiple emails going back and forth. So we appreciated your help. But that's why you see a pool. It wasn't we weren't just thumbing our nose to the process or anything whatsoever. It was, we received the email saying it had been approved. When we received that email, there was nothing in the language that said this might be rescinded or wait for a couple weeks because we might have another decision to make. It didn't give any language like that. So we, as far as we knew, which is another similarity to the previous case, we thought we were doing everything correctly. We thought we had followed the process and gone through the motions of securing a permit. So that's why you see that, and that's why.
So when was the pool constructed?
Well, it was, I don't recall the exact dates, but it was right after it's above ground pool, so it can be constructed in hours. And we did it very soon after we received the permit.
So before the 9th?
Yeah. Yes. There were things that we did after the 9th to, just as we built it, such as putting some drainage stone in place and things like that, but the pool itself was up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's helpful. Any questions for the applicants? I had a question about your backyard.
Sure.
And I guess now that I know it's already built, it's a little different situation, but in your application, you said you had torn the deck down?
Oh, sure. So if you were to be able to see to the right of where the pool is, all the way to the right, our house is there, and there was an old kind of dilapidated deck that we removed.
Okay. And I couldn't tell, you had also referred to access from your basement?
Yes, so if you look, oh, sorry.
So we have a plat here, but it doesn't really show where the basement access.
Yeah, actually you can see it in this photo if you look to the far right of right there. Those are stairs going down to the basement doors.
Okay, yes. I see that. And so there's no longer a deck above that?
There was never a deck above the basement. It was next to the basement stairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Rissy, were you aware that you were not aware that the pool was built? So you did not analyze plans that included a pool and everything that you see here. Is that correct?
The plans that I've reviewed are the ones that are part of the application. It sounds like I probably was involved with emails going back and forth with the applicants when they submitted.
So is the pool 10 feet from the fence? Is the deck 10 feet from the tent? I'm having trouble with these dimensions.
Sure. So we no longer have a deck. We just have a smaller patio.
No, I'm talking about the deck where around the pool.
Oh, yeah, that's just, yeah. The pool itself is 10 feet from the fence, from the back. The decking we put there just for plants and to create a more appealing aesthetic, so it wouldn't look like this, above ground pool in our yard.
Do you know how far from the fence that deck is?
There's no deck on the far left side.
Oh, yeah, there's no deck on the far side, because then that would have really created an issue.
Oh,
So
I see. I see. The pool, it doesn't wrap around. Okay.
It's just an L shape, actually.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're just looking at the pump there and then the drainage rock.
Okay. All right, Ms. Freshman.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of make a comment. In the packet, there's a comment from your neighbor who's, I guess, to the rear. And most of his comments seem to be related to property values.
Yes.
But when I went to the site, and I went to the street behind and tried to peek through from what would be that backyard, it looks like a jungle. I mean, and given that the pool isn't even as high as the fence, I can't comment on property values, but I couldn't see how that could really be detrimental to the rear neighbor. And as far as I can tell, without having addresses, the neighbors on either side who would be much more likely to actually see it, depending on where they were in their own property, don't object to it. Is that correct?
That's right. The three neighbors that, actually, I think there were 4 who submitted in approval, and they are all neighbors who touch our property. Then the builders who are building the house that's right in back of this fence, as you said, there's, I think there's 7 huge evergreens. There's a huge row of evergreens. And so actually the house they built is much larger than the original house. So unfortunately, the only thing that the new owners of that house will see is directly into our living room because of how the house is built, but they can't see the yard.
Okay.
Right. Could you help with, if I give you some names, would you maybe know addresses?
Yeah.
Shantia Pollock.
So they're on Powhatan Street, and their yard, the back of their yard touches the left side of our yard. Okay, yeah. So they're the middle house on Powhatan. Let's see. The Powhatan is on the left of.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Smaller.
That looks like
Yeah.
34,
smaller.
34, 39. Okay.
That's them.
All right. And then, do you know Jack Pingley?
Okay, so that's on the right of our house, the smaller on Williamsburg there, right there.
Okay. And how about Philip North?
They're directly to the left on the corner of William, there, right there.
Okay. So those are the 3 neighbors that abut your property.
Well, the neighbors on the far kind of middle left, if you go to the left.
Yeah, is that Liz?
No, I'm Liz. Actually, I'm
sorry.
Yeah, Liz. But the house on the far left of this image, on the corner of Powhatan, right there, they also sent us an email that they had submitted. So it would be all 4 neighbors that are in an L shape around our house who submitted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then, sorry, there's just one more on the catty corner. Let's see. So to the right of the new build, yeah, right there. They are on vacation, but they also said they approve, and we gave them a letter and everything with a link, but they were on vacation, so just they couldn't submit.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there's no more questions for the applicant. Are there discussions with the board? So I guess I'll go back to Mr. Rissy. So I asked you before about the permit process. Did you come up with anything?
Yeah, Cliff has actually been looking up the history, and it looks like it was submitted. I can't say what was approved. I'm also not going to say that something wasn't approved because I'm not aware that the system may not have generated an approval of one of the reviewers at some point, and maybe that's what got conferred. But I know that there's been a few review cycles now, but it looks like we've got review cycles on March 22nd, March 24th, and April 9th. And at this point, they haven't been able to be passed by zoning, is my understanding.
Right. And that's why we're here.
Right.
But you don't know what kind of an approval they might have gotten in early spring that led them to think that.
Yeah, I can't say that.
Okay. It would be, I mean, I don't know if that'll be relevant to this decision tonight, but it would be good to know if there was a glitch someplace along the line, or if something was just unclear to the applicants, and that ought to be more clear in the future.
Well, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Cliff did say that there is an approval in from DES, but it was rejected by ISD and zoning. So it could, like I said, I just don't know what was generated, but the applicant can probably fill in.
Okay. What kind of a permit was required? Would this been a building permit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion?
Okay, Ms. Freshman?
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution approving use permit V-11682-21-UP1, subject to the conditions listed. And we don't need to do a 1 year since it's already there.
It's already there.
A second.
Motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Arthurs to grant the use permit. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs? Ms. Arthurs, I didn't hear you. You were muted.
Yeah, good reason you didn't hear me. Aye.
And chair votes aye. Motion to grant the use permit carries 4-0. Enjoy your pool.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening.
It'll be a race. So Mr. Bowen's up.
Dun, 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 dun.
Hello, everyone. Good evening again. I believe I will be with you for the duration of the evening, so that'll be the last switcheroo for tonight. The next case on the agenda is case number V-11683-21-UP1. This is a use permit request by Thomas Bucci and Lana L. Arian, the owners, to permit a rear setback of 10.2 feet to the wall, 9.1 feet to the eave, instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eave as required, regarding a two-story rear addition to an existing one-family dwelling located in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2606 North Quantum Street. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Any questions for staff?
It's a rear addition, right?
All right, so this is an irregular lot, and that's the smallest dimension on the building. So the applicants who will be representing the applicants, and are you with us tonight?
We're here. Hi, this is Tom Bucci, and this is my wife, Lana.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Go ahead. Tell us about
Okay,
your
I'm
application.
sorry. So we have an expanding family, and we have our original brick colonial, and we require some more room for our family. Because of our unusual lot size, as you noticed, we're required to apply for the use permit. We've received 5 letters of support from our neighbors, including our neighbor at 6305, which is probably the neighbor that's most affected. And then we have received written support, verbal support from our next door neighbor at 6301 26th Street. So that pretty much accounts for everyone around us, supports our project. So we're happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
And you haven't built this yet, right?
No, no. That's good.
Well, that's
no,
good.
we have not. I appreciate the humor. Long evening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Any questions for the applicant? All right. Discussions with the board. Mr. Melnick.
Yeah, one thing I did notice, and this is like a technicality, but so since we require notaries on the disclosure statement, I noticed that the notary didn't put the seal of the notary. And in Virginia, that's what you're supposed to do. So
we did it. It was, I'm sorry to interrupt. It was a virtual notary. So there was no, it was electronically signed.
Were you in Virginia?
Yes, in Virginia.
Was it?
No, because usually there's a statement on there that it is an electronic notary.
I mean, I actually work in a legal department, and one of our paralegals is the notary, so that's how we did it.
Okay.
Yeah, Virginia didn't do any statutes like other states when COVID happened because we already had an electronic notary statute. So Paul's right.
Yeah, and sometimes, after the fact, staff can, just rectify, anything that needs to be rectified. But I just wanted to point that out.
Good catch, Mr. Melnick.
Thank you.
Can we add that as a condition?
It would have to be
Bowen,
renotarized.
Yeah, I don't know if it needs to be a condition. Well, I guess it can be a condition, yeah. And the condition would be that you renotarize the disclosure prior to commencing building or commence prior to the building permit.
Yeah.
Is that a problem for the applicant?
I don't think so. I don't see that as being an issue.
Okay, it should be simple enough.
Yeah.
And that would just be forwarded to Mr. Bowen or Mr. Russi.
Okay. No, they've been extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Motion?
Please.
I move Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution approving use permit V-11683-21-UP1, subject to the conditions listed, with 2 additions. One is that a legally acceptable notarized statement be submitted prior to the pulling of the building permit, and that the project is committed within 1 year.
I second.
Is it possible to have a year and a half, just because of the COVID and building materials? If not, I mean,
you just have to get your building permit within a year. You don't have to finish everything within a year.
And then we have a year with the building permit, correct?
No, you have forever with the building permit.
Oh,
yeah, you
okay.
have a year. You have a year to get your building permit approved.
And actually, it's already, that condition is number 4 already. It's already in
Okay.
there.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. That's fine. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
part of the
right.
building
Sorry.
permit. That's, you can take care of that tomorrow.
Cool.
I mean,
Yeah, so that would be number 5 would then be the,
Okay.
the notarizing the disclosure statement.
right.
All right. And that motion was seconded by,
Anonymous.
It was me.
it was Miss Arthurs. Thank you. All right, we have a motion to grant the use permit made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Arthurs. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The use permit is granted 4-0. Thank you.
Great. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Have a
your
nice
day
evening.
project.
Thanks.
Next item, please, Mr. Bowen.
Yes, Madam Chair. The next item is case number V-11684-21-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Mariel Zayas on behalf of Jonathan Miles Gibbons and Emily Shapiro, the owners, to permit a rear yard setback of 1.1 feet to the wall, 0.4 feet to the eave, instead of 10 feet to the wall and eave as required, regarding a new one-story rear detached building, a garage, on a corner lot in the R6 district in the premise known as 133 North Fillmore Street. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit request. 2 alternative resolutions have also been provided with conditions should the BZA see fit to approve the request as advertised, or with a rear yard setback of 1.7 feet to the wall, 1 foot to the eave. Please also note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed.
Mr. Bowen, could you describe the supplemental material?
Yes, I believe we have an alternative design approach from the applicant, and they may wish to describe it a bit further beyond that.
All right, thank you. All right, any questions for staff? Mr. Bowen, in the package, there's a plat. And there's just one plat. So I was trying to figure out if that's existing or proposed or both.
Yeah, in this instance, Madam Chair, they are more or less planning to reconstruct the exact garage in the exact same location with a very similar footprint. So the existing and proposed are more or less identical in this case.
So because we do deal in inches, more or less is not exact, right? It's a little bit different.
I believe the garage footprint is a little bit bigger towards the side of the building that is not within the setback. So that portion of the garage does not affect the request.
Okay. So it's deeper than
wider.
I believe it's a bit wider, yes.
Wider. It's slightly wider.
To the right.
Got it. All right.
That might be so that you can fit an actual car in it.
What a thought.
I can understand.
There's an idea.
Right.
All right. And that, I guess that answers my question. So is the applicant with us tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are Mr. Gibbons?
Yes.
All right. And you look like you're in a hospital. And you froze.
John, and hopefully things stay relatively quiet. So my name is Jonathan Gibbons. My wife is Emily Shapiro. She is also online in case I end up being called away. We're the owners of 133 North Fillmore Street. We've read the report to the BZA, and we respectfully disagree with some of their findings and therefore with their recommendations. To summarize our situation, the existing detached one-story single-car garage on our property is in a state of disrepair. We wish to replace it with a like structure in the same location. To be clear on what was just said, we intend to make it slightly deeper, but no wider. So it will move a little bit towards the camera in this photo, but not be any wider. We learned during the permitting process that our existing garage, which predates our time in the house, was likely built without a permit and that it resides outside of current property line offsets or offset regulations. As such, in order to replace the structure with a similar structure, we're seeking a use permit from the BZA. Staff analysis number 1 regarding compatibility acknowledged that accessory buildings on other corner properties surrounding ours do not universally meet required rear yard setbacks, but then stated that none demonstrated a rear yard setback equivalent to or less than the one that we currently propose, which is 1.1 feet to the wall or 0.4 feet to the eaves. I find this to be false. The staff analysis lists several neighboring properties, so the first 3 that they list, with setbacks ranging from 1 foot to 1.5 feet, including our adjacent rear neighbor with an existing setback of only 1 foot. I inspected these properties, and in all cases, these setbacks are measured from the wall, not the eave. Staff seems to be equating these neighboring rear setbacks from the wall with our proposed rear setback from the eave, creating a separate, more stringent, and therefore unequal standard for our application. Additionally, I find non-corner lots in my neighborhood that have accessory structures with side setbacks of 1 foot to the wall and rear setbacks of 0.7 feet to the wall. 2 examples are the garages at 311 and 305 North Edgewood Street, which is to say, single-story one-car garages positioned on the corner of properties approximately 1 foot from both the rear and the side property lines as measured from the wall are in keeping with my neighborhood. In staff analysis number 2 regarding health and safety, staff are concerned that the proposed location of the eaves less than 1 foot from the rear property line may create a situation where it would be difficult to perform maintenance on the proposed garage without trespassing on neighboring properties. I've discussed this issue with the owners directly affected in the property to the east of us, which is 130 North Edgewood Street. This person is a signatory of our petition supporting this project, and as they too have an accessory structure with a 1 foot setback from the wall, they are uniquely able to understand the need for accommodation should performing building maintenance ever become an issue, and they continue to support our application as advertised. Permit me to speak on a related issue at this point. During the inspection of my neighborhood garages and their setbacks, I noted that the majority of accessory structures situated as I propose to situate mine have eaves that extend approximately 4 inches from their walls, significantly less than the 8 inches or 0.7 feet that we proposed in this permit application. As such, I submitted supplementary documents to the BZA revising the floor plan, elevation drawings, and plat, with the only change being the reduction of my eaves from extending 8 inches to extending 4 inches beyond the sidewalls. This is identical to the eaves of the accessory structure at 130 North Edgewood Street, our adjacent neighbor whose rear setback is slightly less than our own. This creates an additional 4 inches of space between the eaves of these 2 properties to facilitate potential maintenance. These were the only 2 objections of staff. In the first case, compatibility, staff seems to be holding us to a different standard than our neighbors. In the second case, health and safety, staff's primary concern is trespassing for building maintenance, but the owners of the affected properties support our proposal, and they and I would find it mutually beneficial to allow trespassing for maintenance of our respective similarly situated accessory structures should the need arise. As such, we are continuing to ask the BZA to forego staff proposed resolution of denial and instead grant us staff alternative resolution number 2, approval as advertised, but with our modification of reduced eaves from 8 inches to 4 inches. I'm happy to address any questions the board may have. I thank you for this opportunity to present our case, and I want to thank Mr. Rizzi and Mr. Bowen. While I disagree with their recommendations, they have been professional, knowledgeable, responsive, and a pleasure to work with.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons, or it's Dr. Gibbons, right?
John.
All right. Any questions for the applicant? So I think from my perspective, staff made a denial because this is a close situation, and rather and in this case is giving, handing the ball off to us for us to use our discretion on whether this is compatible or not. So it's not, staff is just being cautious in this case. So the question is, we have the applicant's original proposal with the 8-inch eave. We also have a revised proposal with a 4-inch eave. So those two are on the table for discussion. Ms. Freshman?
Yes, I understand the staff's position, but I'm persuaded that that replacing the garage in that location is a good idea, and I would support the resolution alternative 2. As I understand it, the eave might be less, but you can always build less than what's approved, right?
So that alternate
I don't think we wouldn't have to make any numerical changes to resolution 2 for them to build what they're currently proposing as opposed to the original.
They would have the option of doing either.
Yes.
Building according to their original proposal or their modified proposal. And we would not need to see the plans if in the event that you did the modified proposal, because it would be within your right to build any eave less than 8. Do we have that right, Mr. Bowen?
Yes, although I will point out that there would be nothing to compel the applicant to build the modified proposal if you adopt the resolution as written.
Sure.
Which would allow it as advertised, very close to the lot line.
Right. We understand that. Any other, Mr. Melnick, did you want to speak?
Yeah, if whenever the applicant is willing to voluntarily modify, to make something further away, I definitely would accept that. Because we're here to try to minimize, the encroachment, and so I personally think that I think it'd be advisable to accept the 4-inch eave, because it's less impact than 8. So that's my thinking on it. So I would go with the approval, but just with the modification of, with 4-inch eave.
All right, so that would change the setback that we would be approving?
Ma'am, it would change the setback from the eave, but not from the wall. So the wall would continue to be a
wall would be the
same. 1 foot 1 inch, and then the eave would be
4/12. 4. Right now it says 0.4 feet. So 0.4 feet is
0.4 feet. Sorry. The wall currently is 1 foot from, and then the eave would be, as written, would extend 0.7 feet out. So it would be 0.5 feet away from the property line. The modification of a 0.3 foot eave, a 4-inch eave, would allow us to be 0.7 or 0.75 feet away from the property line of the eave.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Bowen, do the math for us.
I just wanted to reference that we could reference the submitted materials that are in the supplemental materials packet. Those could be kind of the controlling documentation for the condition language.
Well, but we do have to put numbers in our resolution, don't we? Because we've got it to permit a rear yard
It's
setback.
modified. But which
Mr. Ritchie has
resolution?
some thoughts, so I'm gonna let him speak. I'm rolling in. Madam Chair, you don't have to change the numbers in the request or the resolution number 2. If you just want to say, rather than the drawings attached to the staff report, you say the drawings submitted with the supplemental material. Because then he can build the structure at the distance shown in those drawings, and that would still abide by the approval that you're granting. That structure is further away, so.
Oh, yes, because it's further.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, right. The alternate resolution already has the original.
Is the date the same? Is the date the same, August 13th?
August 18th?
No, because it refers to the staff report dated August 13th.
Okay, so is it supplemental material associated with the staff report, August 13th?
You could just say the supplemental material for the August 18th BZA meeting.
Yeah,
18th
okay.
BZA hearing.
Madam Chair, I think we should, in addition to saying that, just saying showing 4-inch eaves, something like that.
Say
just
what?
So it's clear. Just showing 4-inch eaves, so it's clear what the differentiation is.
All right.
Okay.
So somebody's going to have to make a motion and say that.
Okay, Paul.
Okay. Okay.
You
All
spoke
right.
last.
Okay. I'll make the motion in case V1168421 UP1. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approves the resolution number 2, approval as advertised, with the modification that instead of the language, let's see, instead of 0.4 feet to the eave, I would say, in accordance with the drawings on the supplemental material showing 4-inch eaves.
So we would strike.
Dated today. Dated the 18th.
Yeah, we can say that, dated. Yeah, and so take out the language in the parentheses and then put in accordance with the supplemental material, and then dated, let's see, you're saying August 17th.
No, it should say August 18th BZA hearing.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing, I'm just trying to.
On condition number 1, if you add a condition number 1, just taking out attached to the staff report dated blah, and just say architectural drawings in the supplemental material.
Yeah, that's fine.
8/18/21.
Okay. All right. Well, the supplemental materials aren't dated per se. The drawings are actually dated August 17th, 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So, let's see. So I'd say then, let's see, where it says architectural drawings attached to the staff report. But we could say in the architectural drawings date attached to the supplemental materials and dated August 17th, 2021.
Okay.
The only thing is the survey is attached. Let me see. Okay, well, said we got a new survey too, so I think that would put the bill. Now the survey is dated something different, so maybe we ought to just refer to the supplemental materials. I think that we need to refer to the date of the survey. Okay, so I think what we need to say in condition 1 is where it says in accordance with the footprint shown on the survey. I think we need to say the survey dated March 12th, 2021. And the architectural drawings in the supplemental materials dated August 17th, 2021. We could say, both is included in the supplemental materials.
I'll second.
That's why I didn't garble that too much.
Mr. Bowen, how are you feeling about it? You think?
Yeah, no, I think we're
think-
good with
You think you got this?
yeah, got the intent of the condition. Might be a word or two off from what was said, but very similar.
right.
Okay.
All right.
Second.
All right. And all right. So the motion has been made and seconded. And Dr. Gibbons, you understand where we are, and he may have left. Any further discussion? We have a motion made by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Ms. Freshman, to adopt alternate number 2 with some revised conditions. I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to grant the use permit passes 4-0. All right, Mr. Bowen, next item.
Yes, Madam Chair. The next item is case number V-11685-21-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Bill Bork on behalf of Angela Putney, the owner, to permit a right side setback of 7.7 feet to the wall instead of 8 feet to the wall as required from the side property line regarding a one-story rear addition to a one-family dwelling in the R8 zoning district on the premise known as 1326 North Harrison Street. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please know that there is also supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed.
Mr. Bowen, will you describe the supplemental material?
Yes, in this case, the supplemental material was letters of neighborhood outreach that did come in before the packets were printed and assembled, but was unfortunately left out, so it was added as supplemental materials today.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah,
I would point out that all of the neighborhood outreach completely encircles the property, which is delightful.
You've checked them all, right?
I checked them all.
Thank you.
There was actually a wayward one from somewhere else, but yes, it was very good.
All right, thank you. If there's no questions for the for staff, let's move to the applicant. And is that Ms. Putney?
Yes, that is.
Good evening.
Good evening. Sorry. Yeah, very evening. Trying to make this quick. So I endeavored to slightly enlarge my house. It's about a 6-foot addition going back, plus a shed dormer, which you can see there. I knew from the plat that the side was 7.9 feet from the line. So we actually made the addition be the 1.2 inches further in so that the new addition would be 8 feet from the line. At the insulation inspection, we were told we needed a new survey. Did the survey. Eventually it has turned out to be that the original house, built in 1939, was built at a slight angle to the property line. Such that now if we actually have the brick on the whole way around, because I was trying to make the new addition look like the rest of the house, that brick puts us at 7.7 feet from the line rather than the 8 feet. The structure itself is just over 8 feet from the line if you did not have brick. So the request is to have the 7.7 feet so we can have brick so it looks like the rest of the house.
Got it. Any questions for the applicant? So it's not uncommon to see surveys that change from time to time. That even happens after things are built. Ms. Freshman?
We definitely want the brick. I mean, no question. I'm prepared to make a motion. This falls into my consent bucket.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ms.
Okay. In the case of V-11685-21-UP1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the proposed resolution subject to the conditions.
I second.
As it's existing, it doesn't need any 1 year.
I second.
Bill, motion by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Arthurs. Is there any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to grant your use permit is approved. Sorry for the late hour.
Thank you very much. I like the results, so I'll stay up.
Well, you can stay with us if you want to. We're going to be here for a while. All right. Good evening. So what's up next? What's next?
We have one last case. I will read that. It is V-11686-21-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Bartley and Alexia Collard, the owners, to permit a street setback of 17.2 feet, 15.2 feet to the eave, to the wall and porch base instead of 25 feet and 21 feet, 21 feet and 19.5 feet to the eave as required. A left side setback of 3.5 feet, 1.5 feet to the eave to the wall instead of 8 feet, 4 feet to the eave as required, and an aggregate of 16 feet instead of 18 feet as required regarding a new single-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premise known as 3205 23rd Street North. The staff recommendation is to accept the withdrawal of this request as the setback relief was already granted through the Historic Affairs and Landmark Review Board.
So it's not a deferral as in the recommendation?
Nope.
Okay.
Yes.
So do we need to do anything?
Yes. Do we vote on withdrawals?
Yes.
To accept the withdrawal. Do we have any objections? Oh, we have the applicant with us. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep, we're here. Do you want to say anything?
I think it's all been pretty much explained. You know, we had a bad fire and we're just anxious to rebuild.
It sounds like you got the permission that you needed from HALRB?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Sorry about the fire.
Thank you.
That's really very sad. You all okay now, right?
Yeah, everybody survived. We got the kids and the dog and the hamster out, so that's the main thing. But we're looking to rebuild a house that looks very much like the house we had. It's a bungalow, and the architect we're working with is passionate about catalog homes, so we're looking forward to rebuilding.
That's very tough. I'm sorry to hear that. But I'm glad you got your approval from HALRB. You don't need one from us, evidently. So we're just here to accept your withdrawal. Any questions for the applicants?
No.
Let's have a motion.
I'll move on the case of V-11686-21-UP1. I move that the BZA accept the withdrawal of the case.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Arthurs to accept withdrawal of the case. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Bowen, does this mean that they can get their building permit now? Is that,
Yes, I believe
what, this is the last step before they get their building permit?
The BZA would have been an option for setback relief had the HALRB not granted relief, but it is no longer necessary.
All right, and so this is ready to go. So if there's no further discussion, I'll call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to accept withdrawal of the application has been granted. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. That concludes our agenda, but we have a couple more things. We have the motion. We have the minutes to approve, but also before I do that, so I don't forget, we had floated some new dates for the September meeting, possibility of meeting on the 22nd. And I know that Ms. Freshman and Ms. Arthurs could make it, and was that date acceptable to you as well, Mr. Melnick?
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay. We had also floated the possibility, since we have some appeals, that we might also add a possible meeting to the 29th. We're not asking for commitment right now, but I will make a motion to amend our calendar to add both of those dates in case we need them. Right now, staff does not know exactly how September is going to unfold. Mr. Rissy can explain it, or I can tell you what Mr. Rissy said. It's possible that the county may continue to allow a all remote meeting in September.
Yay.
In that case, we could conceivably meet on our original date, the 14th, or the 22nd, or the 29th. So we're just, at this point, we don't know exactly where we're going. Mr. Rissy's trying to put some agendas together based on the availability of applicants, especially for the appeals. Not only applicants, but also staff that would be necessary to hear the appeal. So I'd like to make a motion just to add those dates to the calendar, and then in the coming weeks, we can figure out exactly what our meeting schedule is going to be.
So it would be the 14th as well as the 22nd and 29th?
Right now, we don't know.
Okay.
We're keeping them open.
What we just want to do is keep them all open so that we can work on it. So my
14th is a Jewish holiday too.
Which one?
14th?
No, we moved it off of Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah, this is Tuesday, so we moved it off of Wednesday. So, and the reason that we needed to go to the 22nd was that if the board, if we were meeting in person, the board had the boardroom on the 14th. That was their carryover date. If the board, if we don't need the boardroom, then we have the flexibility to meet on the 14th if we want to, or the
or all three.
Or all three. And we
For
have
20 minutes each.
We have a couple of appeals that we're trying to schedule, and that maybe that they get pushed into October depending on just who's available when. But for maximum flexibility, I move to amend the BZA 2021 calendar to add meeting dates on September 22nd and September 29, 2021.
Second.
All right, seconded by Ms. Arthurs. Any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to amend the BZA 2021 calendar carries 4-0.
And so far, we only have the original in October, the 13th?
Correct.
Yes, so far.
Yeah,
okay.
we haven't done anything in October yet.
Okay.
Mr. Do you have no sense of how October's stacking up right now?
At this point, no, we're still putting together agendas for September, so it's really hard to forecast out that far.
I tried to get that earlier.
I
and
know. Well, I
and
thought
it-
maybe he was just being cagey in the middle of the meeting. All right, my last item of business is to approve the July 14, 2020 minutes.
So move.
Motion made by Ms. Freshman to approve the July meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Melnick. I'll call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Arthur?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to approve the July 14 minutes passes 4-0. All right, well done.